Your eyes open, and for a second, you don't know where you are. The smell hits you first. Smoke, leather, horse sweat, and underneath it all, something metallic. Blood, maybe, or just the scent of bronze armor warming in the morning sun. You're lying on a camp bed inside a tent, and the light coming through the canvas is pale and grey. Somewhere outside, thousands of men are waking up too. You can hear them. The clink of armor being strapped on, horses being walked, low voices, tents trying not to sound scared. You sit up and you realize something. You're not you anymore. You're Alexander, king of Macedon, and in a few hours, you're going to lead tens of thousands of men into one of the most important battles in human history. And now, before we go any further, I want you to picture something. Using AI, we've taken the old engravings, the ancient mosaics, the busts carved 2,000 years ago, and brought them back to life. You're about to see what these moments might have actually looked like. Real faces, real terrain, real fear, because today we're not just talking about a battle, we're talking about a 25-year-old man who's about to gamble everything against an empire that outnumbers him many times over, and how he got here is a story almost nobody tells properly. So stick with me. By the end of this, you'll understand why, 2,300 years later, people still argue about whether what happens today was genius, luck, or madness. You swing your legs off the bed and your body feels stiff. Sore, actually. You've been riding for days and the wound on your thigh from a skirmish weeks ago is still healing. A servant comes in with water and you wash your face. Outside, you can hear your generals talking, low voices, arguing slightly. They're worried, you can tell. Because today, you're facing the army of Darius III, king of Persia, and his army is enormous. Some ancient sources claim it's in the hundreds of thousands. Modern historians think that's exaggerated. War reporting always was, but even by conservative estimates, Darius has at least double, maybe triple, the number of men you do. You have around 47,000 soldiers, Macedonians, Greeks, mercenaries from a dozen different regions, all under your command. And you're about to walk out of this tent and ask every single one of them to follow you into that. You step outside and the camp goes quiet. Not silent, but quiet. Men turn to look at you, some nod, some just stare. You're wearing your armor now, a breastplate, a helmet with a white plume that makes you instantly recognizable on the battlefield. That's not an accident, by the way. You want to be seen. You want your men to know exactly where their king is fighting. As you walk through the camp, you pass soldiers checking their spears, sharpening blades, praying to whichever gods they follow. Some of these men have been with you since Macedon, since before any of this started. And here's the thing people often forget. These soldiers aren't fighting for some abstract idea of glory. Many of them are far from home, years away from their families, and they've followed you through deserts, mountains, and 3 major battles already. This isn't your first fight against Darius. You beat him once before, at a place called Issus, a couple of years ago. And here's something interesting. At Issus, Darius actually fled the battlefield and left his own mother, wife, and children behind in his camp. You captured them, and rather than mistreating them, which would have been completely normal for the time, you treated them with respect. That decision matters because word of it spread. Across the Persian Empire, people start hearing that this young Macedonian king isn't some barbarian. He's something else, maybe even someone they could live under. Now you reach a ridge and you look out across the plain in front of you. It's flat, completely flat as far as the eye can see. And that's a problem because Darius chose this ground deliberately. He's learned from Issus where the narrow terrain stopped him from using his full numbers. This time, he's picked open ground near a place called Gaugamela, perfect for his chariots and his cavalry to maneuver freely. You can see the Persian camp in the distance. It's massive. Fires still burning from the night before because apparently Darius kept his men awake all night, worried you might launch a surprise attack in the dark. You didn't. You let your men sleep, rest, while the enemy stayed up all night, anxious and exhausted. That's not just luck, That's you reading your opponent. Your generals gather around you and you go through the plan one more time. Darius has a much wider line than you do. If you face him head on, he'll simply wrap around your flanks and surround you. So instead, you're going to do something risky. You're going to march your army at an angle, diagonally, trying to draw the Persian cavalry away from the center of their line. It's a gamble because it means stretching your own forces thin too. If it goes wrong, your flanks could collapse before your plan even has a chance to work. One of your generals, Parmenion, an older man who served your father for years, raises concerns. He's cautious, he's seen wars before, and he knows how quickly things can fall apart. You listen to him, you always listen, but you've already made your decision. There's a strange period now, before the fighting starts, where you just have to wait. You eat something, though probably not much. Your stomach is too tight for that. You speak to a few officers, you check on your companion cavalry, the elite unit you'll personally lead into battle later. And then, somewhere in the camp, a soldier asks you something that historians have actually recorded. He asks if you're worried. And your answer, according to the accounts, is something like this. You tell him that Darius has had years to prepare an army of that size, and he's still afraid, while you, with a fraction of his numbers, are not. Whether that's bravado or genuine confidence, who knows? But it's the kind of thing that spreads through camp in minutes. And confidence, real or performed, matters enormously before a battle like this. The horns sound, and just like that, tens of thousands of men start moving forward across that flat, dusty plain. You're on horseback now, near the right side of your line, with your companions around you. Ahead of you, the Persian line stretches further than you can see in either direction. Chariots with blades on their wheels. War elephants brought from India. Cavalry from dozens of different peoples under Persian rule. The noise is overwhelming. Drums, horns, the rumble of tens of thousands of feet and hooves on dry ground. Dust starts rising almost immediately, thick clouds of it, making it hard to see more than a short distance in any direction. And here's where things get tense. Because as you advance at that angle, the Persian cavalry on their side starts moving to match you, just as you hoped, but it's working almost too well. Gaps are starting to open in the Persian line. This is the moment. The plan either works now or it falls apart completely. You see the gap, a real gap opening up in the Persian center, where Darius himself is positioned with his royal guard, and you make a decision that frankly takes nerve most people simply don't have. You turn your cavalry and you charge straight for it, straight for the gap, straight towards Darius himself. The chariots come at you first, the scythed ones, but your infantry has been trained for this. They open lanes, let the chariots pass through harmlessly, and close again behind them. Then, it's just you, your companions, and a wedge of cavalry, smashing into the chaos near the Persian center, dust everywhere, shouting, the clash of metal, on shields, on armor. You can barely tell friend from enemy in places. Men fall around you. Some you know, some you don't. And somewhere in that chaos, Darius, watching his center collapse, watching you cut through towards him, makes the same decision he made at Issus. He runs. Here's the honest part, the part that doesn't get romanticized enough. When Darius flees, his army, the one that outnumbered you significantly, starts to collapse too. Not because they're cowards, but because in ancient warfare, when the king flees, command and cohesion fall apart with him. Panic spreads faster than any sword can move. What follows is brutal. A retreat under these conditions is one of the deadliest parts of any ancient battle. Thousands die, not in organized combat, but in the chaos of fleeing, trampled, cut down from behind, lost in the dust and confusion. Your own forces take losses too, real losses. Men you knew, men who'd marched with you for years, don't make it through today. This is the part that's important to sit with. Victory in ancient warfare wasn't clean. It wasn't glorious in the way statues and paintings make it look centuries later. It was exhausting, terrifying, and it came at a genuine human cost on both sides. By the end of the day, the battle is effectively won. Darius escapes, but his army is shattered, and his empire, the largest the world has seen up to this point, is now functionally broken. Within a relatively short time, the great Persian capitals fall: Babylon, Susa, Persepolis, cities that had stood as centers of power for centuries. And you, 25 years old, are now ruler of more territory than almost anyone in history up to that point. But here's something worth remembering. This isn't the end of your story. Not by a long way. There's years of campaigning still ahead, deep into Central Asia, into India, through deserts and mountains that will cost you more men than this battle ever did. And eventually, it ends with your death at 32, far from home, with an empire that fractures almost immediately afterwards. So was today a triumph? Yes. Genuinely, by any measure, it was an extraordinary military achievement that historians still study and teach today. But it's also worth asking what it cost. The men who didn't go home, the cities that would be reshaped by conquest, the empire that within a generation would tear itself apart. In the power struggles that followed your death, history rarely gives us simple victories. It gives us moments like this one, complicated, costly, and impossible to look away from. If you found this interesting, do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow. And if you want more stories like this, brought to life with AI recreations of real historical scenes, make sure you're subscribed, because there's a lot more history where this came from. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.